LSD Dream Emulator is a unique video game that has gained a cult following since its release in 1998. It was designed by a Japanese artist named Uzumo Sato and was partially based on a dream journal kept by one of the designers at Asmik Ace Entertainment, Hiroki Nishikawa. Some of the entries were later implemented into the game. The game is known for its surreal and abstract visuals, bizarre soundtrack, and its ability to invoke feelings that are hard to put into words. But today, I'm going to talk about some of those feelings and narrow it down to what aspects of the game make us feel that way. One of these emotions is attributed to that of familiarity. These are places that we can vaguely remember even if we have never seen them in person. Places like the Bright Moon Cottage might remind some of us of our homes or places we used to call homes. Kyoto might remind us of the romanticized version of Edo, Japan we see in popular culture, and the Violence District might remind us of walking home alone in the dark or nightmares of a grungy city setting. All of these locations share something in common: they're dreams. And like dreams, each one is unique to each and every one of us. What I might find unsettling in a certain area may be something others might find mundane. An example being the window in the Bright Moon Cottage. During a gameplay, I remarked to my friend Noah how eerie the flat and artificial sky JPEG was. To him, he didn't seem to pay much mind to it, juxtaposed to his feelings towards the giant baby in the same cottage which caught him by surprise multiple times, and that would always get a laugh out of me. Playing LSD Dream Emulator is an experience that can be hard to put into words. The game transports you to different dreamscapes each time that you collide with objects, each time transporting you to a location more surreal and abstract than the last. This puts the aspect of dreams into a perspective even more. You see, the game has something called days, which are roughly 10 minutes, and when the player wakes up, they're sent back to the menu, where they are shown what day they are currently on. But before, they're shown a graph, with 4 different directions labeled in a compass format: upper, dynamic, downer, and static, which indicate where the next spawn location will be. Observing more cheerful areas will result in an upper dream, which raises the chances of the next dream being in Happy Town. Whereas spending time in the Violence District or being around hostile NPCs or disturbing areas will result in a downer dream, although dynamic and static dreams are still not fully understood to this day. I won't go too far into the graph, but it plays a large role into the game's mechanics and represent how things we see in dreams can stick with us for better or worse. A real life example for me is where I would have underwater dreams where I was accompanied by a giant sea monster, which to this day affects my ability to be around open water. Seems to be a bit silly, but in my experience that would be something I consider a downer dream. Maybe have something similar. One of the more tangible feelings that LSD Dream Emulator can evoke is a sense of nostalgia. The game's dreamscapes often resemble places of the player's past, such as a childhood home, schools, or even a neighborhood. The Bright Moon Cottage I mentioned earlier is an example. To me, at least, this strikes a chord of nostalgia. The multiple stories of the building remind me of a family home we once owned, and when I was younger, the outside reminded me of a house I would see while living in San Jose. These places are rendered in a very surreal way that almost seems like they were ripped straight out of a memory. Areas like the natural world also remind me of vague fields that my mind would conjure up in dreams of Sahara deserts or savannas, or remind me of the empty fields of grass that I would see on my way to preschool. that my mind would only make blocky recreations of, much like the ones I see in the game. I'm hesitant to say it, but some areas have a level of liminality that some might compare to that of the back rooms. The feeling of distortion and confusion you may have when traversing areas like Kyoto or the long hallway that lead to dead ends and seemingly infinite loops. Areas that should be full of people now lay empty, and when the occasional geisha in Kyoto appears, it's a surprise, because the monotony of emptiness is something that the game hammers in hard. A lot of the areas in LSD are empty, and often have very few NPCs in them, which makes each encounter something that can be unexpected. One of the best examples of emptiness, of liminality, is the Violence District. A city full of buildings, but hardly any residents, this place has always gotten to me in a way no other game area really has. There's roads, but no one is driving. There's high rises with lights on, but they're empty. There's an overpass, but there's no traffic. A classic trait of liminality is the emptiness of places that should be bustling. But there's an explanation to this lack of life. Everyone here is dead. Keeping on the subject of the Violence District, another emotion that I feel while playing LSD is fear. But especially here in this area. The Violent City's namesake isn't hyperbole. This area's name is well deserved. The corpses, whether hanging from the light poles or sprawled across the ground with clear signs of murder being their demise, or the crime scene chalk outlines that display the animosity that this city is famous for to the player, or even the dumpster full of limbs found in the alleyway, a callous attempt to dispose of another body. And the suspect of these killings is around in this city. Possibly the NPC, simply known as the murderer, who can be seen kicking a corpse, completely ignoring the player, which says, to me, killing is something this person has done before, and with people in view nonetheless. Although there is no actual combat in LSD Dream Emulator, the threat of death still follows you even into the dream world. An NPC, known as the gunman or the soldier, might be the one responsible for the carnage seen throughout the city, as bullet holes can be seen on the walls of buildings and alleyways, as well as the windows of some cars being shot out. If approached, the gunman will fire upon the player, which will end the day or link you to another area. I think, to me, the Violence District is probably one of the more terrifying areas to be in the game. But we'll leave the city for right now and move on to another threat that isn't bound to just one area. Possibly the most startling entity in the game, the Gray Man only appears on certain days and will suddenly manifest himself in front of the player's line of sight and slowly glide towards them, sometimes teleporting right in front of them and causing a flash, booting the player to the menu, and even erasing flashback data, or data that lets the players play a certain moment in their past game sessions, which makes the Gray Man's presence something to fear, especially if you've come a long way, as flashback data only appears after 20 to 30 days of in-game time. The Gray Man was definitely put into the game to scare the player. The fear of actually losing something if you're caught by this ethereal cloaked figure is something that's always made my heart pound every time I see him float out of the mist. The fact that you're never truly safe anywhere that you go in the game makes it to where he's less of a nuisance and more of a threat. And honestly, the first time that I saw him when I played the game was kind of a heart stopper because I was kind of exposed to this game through a creepypasta about the Gray Man, and I thought that it was just part of the story, but seeing him for the first time definitely spooked me to the point where it's hard for me to play this game knowing that he's in it. But I guess there can't be dreams without nightmares. If you're listening to this part of the video, that means that you finished it, so thank you. I've kind of had this video on the back burner for a while. I've been wanting to make a video about this game because it was just so important to me and my friend Noah, and I've known about it for a very long time, and now that I'm able to kind of make a video about how I feel about it, I'm pretty happy, that it came out so well. And yeah, I want to say thank you to Noah for helping me film the footage that was used for this game. It was a huge effort on his part because he played it on a keyboard. But yeah, if you finished this, if you got to this point in the video, I just want to say thank you. And yeah, more to come.
You have bees here?
Yeah, it's the world.